Alright, what's up, guys? It's DatBoiPat from Catharsis Records, and hitting you with another tier list. I really enjoy making these. It gives me a way, it's a good way to talk about like an artist's, discography and shit. And this time I'm doing Wu Tang Clan's, I'm doing their 90s albums. Like their 90s albums, I feel, are their most iconic, their most classic. Most of their best material comes from a lot of these 90s albums. I've been a Wu Tang Clan fan ever since I heard 36 Chambers. You can never have too much Wu Tang content. You can never listen to too much Wu Tang Clan because Wu Tang is forever, right? So yeah, I changed up the tiers this time. So it's got classic, great, good, decent, bad, terrible, and unlistenable. Yeah, so let's just get into it. First one I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna do these in chronological order, but I think it makes sense to start with 36 Chambers first. It's the one that set it off. I'm gonna put this in classic easily. Yeah, this one is easily a classic. This is one of my favorite hardcore hip hop albums. One of my favorite hip hop albums. One of my favorite, early '90s albums, and just one of my favorite albums in music. Like period. Like the rugged, aggressive, like in your face kind of rapping and production that's on this really kind of like made me want to get into more hip hop, and it made me realize that that's the style of hip hop that I enjoy the most. All the performances on this are really dope. I mean, like, even You God and Master Killer, they're not on this a lot, but the spots that they show up are really solid. You know, yeah, like the dark, like dreary, like beats on this are like were really innovative for the time, and I think this still holds up. I mean, you listen to this and it definitely feels like '93, but I still think like it holds up. Like the like type of like simplistic, like soul sampled, like minimalist production on this really made me enjoy it. It kind of gives it that grimy edginess. All the performances, Method Man, Ghostface, Inspector Deck had a really underrated performance on this. He was on a lot of big songs. Raekwon, ODB, I think he did really good on this. Jizza, they all did good. You know, and if you haven't heard it, you need to definitely listen to it. Like you're trying to get into hardcore hip hop, just trying to get into hip hop in general. There's a lot of classic songs on this that you should be aware of. So let me do Liquid Swords now. This is another one that goes in the classic tier. Liquid Swords was the first vinyl record that I ever bought. I got it at Sorry State in Raleigh. Yeah, this is actually another one of my favorite hardcore hip hop albums too. Like Jizza really stepped it, like really like showcased how good of a solo artist he could be with this album. Because not only are these songs like super dark and dreary, and kind of like have like it takes like the kung fu like elements from 36 Chambers and really like elevates it on this. Not just because of like the beats on this fit with that kung fu theme a lot more than some of these other projects, but like the way that Riz is rapping on this, he's not like really in your face or like yelling or anything or like really aggressive, but like the stuff he's saying is kind of violent and kind of grotesque, but the way he's saying it is like really calm, and that makes this album kind of chilling, a little bit. This has like a lot of my favorite Wu-Tang songs on it, like Duel of the Iron Mike. I really enjoy Fourth Chamber with Ghostface and RZA, and Killer Priest. That's one of my favorite Wu-Tang songs in general. Cold World with Inspector Deck. Inspector Deck, all the songs that he's on, he went off on this. Jizza wasn't, no, like nobody on this was slouching. Like Method Man was on this and he was doing good. Investigative Reports, I really enjoy that song as well. And this is kind of an underrated classic, I feel, because I feel like if you're gonna do like that dark, kind of violent, grotesque, dreary kind of like hip hop and shit, you kind of owe it to Liquid Swords as kind of being like the precursor to that, you know. So let's go to the next one. I'm gonna do Iron Man. I gotta put this one in the great column. Yeah, this is Ghostface Killah's debut album, Iron Man, featuring Raekwon and Capadonna. Ghostface is actually my favorite Wu-Tang member. And I really like this one too. Really, why I don't think it's like in the classic tier is that sometimes I listen to this and he's kind of like not fallen to the wayside, but he just kind of, this feels like a collaborative album between Raekwon and Capadonna and Ghostface. Like this doesn't really feel like Ghostface's album because there are songs on this where he's not even on it. But if you know anything about Wu Tang Clan, you know Ghostface was sick with like diabetes, so that's why he's not on some of these songs. But the songs that he's on are really like dope. You know, like Motherless Child, that's a really like emotionally like kind of moving song that was kind of like unexpected for Wu Tang Clan because they had done like Tikal and Liquid Swords and stuff, and Cuban Links, which were like the more aggressive sounding albums. But like, you know, Iron Man is kind of like in the middle because there are some hard hitting songs on this, like Poisonous Darts and like Wildflower, which is another Wu Tang song, or that's another song off this I fuck with. You know, yeah, and this still kind of has like the same kind of kung fu-y traditional Wu Tang sound that like Liquid Swords and 36 Chambers has. You know, and Ghostface on this, you know, he's definitely rapping his ass off too. You know, he's flowing really hard on a lot of these beats. You know, so I guess I'll just leave it at that. It's not my favorite Ghostface project. There's some other ones I think that are better than this, but it's still definitely a great album. I'm gonna switch it up and I'm gonna do Uncontrolled Substance. I gotta put this one in good. Um, Uncontrolled Substance I think is like really kind of misunderstood. Like I think a lot of people think this is kind of bad or just like decent, but I actually think this is a good album. I think the only thing holding this back is like the beats. You know, the beats on this don't really sound like the traditional Wu-Tang sound, mostly because there were two floods. There were two floods that hit RZA's basement that ruined all the beats from Uncontrolled Substance and some of the beats from Tikal. So they had to remake all the production. So Inspector Deck made a lot of the production on Uncontrolled Substance. And I think I like the beats. Like I think the beats have like a nice little like groove to it, you know? Like it's kind of bouncy, like you can kind of move around to it, but it doesn't have like the like kind of personality that like these albums have, you know. But Inspector Deck is still flowing on this. Like he's still rapping his ass off. Inspector Deck's actually my second favorite Wu-Tang member. I like his flow. I like his internal rhyme schemes. I think is really interesting. I actually think his voice is pretty nifty too. It's like pretty underrated. Yeah, like Movers and Shakers, that's a good song. Rec Room, those are like the big songs off of this. You know, there's some You God features on here too that I think are pretty decent. You know, You God's not really my favorite from Wu Tang, but yeah, I actually, you know, like this one, so I would definitely listen to this too. Let's do Cuban Links. This is another classic album. Raekwon with Only Built for Cuban Links. This is Raekwon, the Chef's debut album. I really enjoy this one as well. This is a kind of like it has like it's like a cinematic like feel to it. You know, there's a lot of themes of like mobsters and like mafiosos and like organized crime within this that, you know, hip hop. You know, you listen to today, you hear a lot of references to Scarface and drug kingpins and, you know, all this like organized crime and shit, and it kind of owes it to Only Built for Cuban Links. You know, it's like the precursor to all that. You know, Raekwon, he showed off a lot of personality on this. I think him and Ghostface, because Ghostface is on a lot of these songs too. You know, and I didn't say it about Iron Man, but yeah, Raekwon was doing a lot on Iron Man too. You know, just as much as Ghostface, you know. But on Cuban Links, you know, Raekwon really stepped up on this. It's got some pretty good songs, you know. Ice Cream, that's like the big song off this. Verbal Intercourse, that's got Nas on it. That's got one of Nas's best verses is on Verbal Intercourse. I like that one. Shark Biters, I like that one a lot. Guillotine Swords, Inspector Deck is on that. He killed his verse on that. You know, really, it doesn't like the production on this sounds kind of like Iron Man's, where it's still kind of like the typical like kung fu-y Wu-Tang like traditional sound, you know. And I guess that's really the only thing that like the downside to it, I guess, is that the production is kind of samey as all these other projects. But it's still like that's the only thing I can really think of, you know. So let's do Wu-Tang Forever. I think this is also goes in the classic tier. Wu-Tang Forever. I really enjoy Wu-Tang Forever. I really, really like Wu-Tang Forever. Um, I like how it takes the styles from all the albums between 36 Chambers and Wu-Tang Forever and just kind of combines them. You know, there's a lot of songs on this that sound like songs that could be on a lot of these other projects. I see a lot of people that kind of like don't get the hype for this album or think that it's kind of bad because it doesn't hit as hard as 36 Chambers, because the soul samples on this, like the samples on this are a lot cleaner and more polished. There's a lot of like R&B like sung kind of vocal samples on this, and like the drums on this don't hit as hard. They're more like kind of stripped back, you know, so the members have more to say. But yeah, like I think this is like really dope. Like You God and Mastakilla, Capadonna, they all shine on this. Like they all shine on this. Some of You God's best verses are on this. You know, Ghostface killed this. Inspector Deck he went off on this as well. Inspector Deck really like one of the most underrated rappers in my opinion. Yeah, yeah, like there's a lot of songs on this where they're reveling in the success of a lot of these projects. You know, there's also a lot of like you know in the intro to this is a double disc album. Disc 2, RZA makes references to the rest of the rap game, talking about other rappers kind of biting Wu-Tang's like sound, you know, and how he doesn't want anyone to do that. But I feel like him doing that, it's kind of like preaching to the choir, because that kind of like style that he was rebelling against would eventually become popular in like the early 2000s and so on. But yeah, I think this like ODB wasn't on a lot of these songs, but he still did really good on all his verses, like Dog Shit. I like that one a lot. His opening like introduction to on Triumph is like one of the best introductions to a rap song I've heard. His verse on Reunited was really dope. He did the hook on As High as Wu-Tang Gets, which is another dope ass song off of this. Reunited, that violin sample in Reunited is like so crazy. Like violins and like pianos and horns are like the kind of samples that I really like in hip hop. You know, A Better Tomorrow. This album has a lot of themes of like gun violence and like kind of the being victims of gun violence, and they tell their story of that through Wu-Tang Forever. Like A Better Tomorrow, that's one of my favorite Wu-Tang songs. That's a song about having hopefulness for the future and kind of like the impact that violence and gangs and all this kind of stuff has on like people, and the way that like people pass it down through multiple like generations, and that song is kind of like a depiction of that. So if you haven't heard Wu-Tang Forever, I definitely listen to it. I think it's like really, really good. So let me do Tikal. I'm gonna put this in. I guess this is like controversial, but I'm gonna put this in great. A lot of people think Tikal is a classic. I'm put this in front of. Put this in front of Iron Man. Yeah, well, a lot of people think Tikal is a classic. I don't see why. I think it has like Method Man's kind of like charismatic persona and like personality to it, but I don't think the songs on this hit as hard as like any songs off of 36 Chambers, Liquid Swords, any of those. But there are some bangers though. Like Bring the Pain is a 90s like classic song. Meth versus Chef, I think, has a really dope like beat to it. It's kind of like him and Raekwon kind of like trading bars. I really like that one. Mr. Sandman, I like that one. RZA's verse on that was really cool. But yeah, I don't enjoy this as much as like a Cuban Links or a Liquid Swords or like a Wu-Tang Forever. It's definitely not whack though. Yeah, this one was also another one of those that got ruined in the flood in RZA's basement, which is why the rapping, it's not bad, but it sounds like the verses sound like they were written for different beats, if that makes sense. But yeah, it's definitely good. I would listen to it. I'll do You God, Golden Arms Redemption. I'm gonna put this in decent. I actually I had only heard this a couple of times before I listened to it for this video. Um, I think You God gets kind of shitted on as being like the worst Wu Tang member, but I don't think he's a bad rapper. I think he's an okay rapper. What I think this like makes this project just decent though is like the rapping is kind of so. You God to me, you know how Wu Tang Clan has like their own like personalities and they have their own distinctive styles. You God to me was always like the blue collar kind of every working man of Wu Tang Clan. You God has a really dark, gruff sounding voice, and I don't think the beats on this album really match that. Like I don't think the beats go with the rapping. I think somebody like Method Man could have rocked these beats a lot harder. Somebody like Ghostface could have rocked these beats a lot harder. There weren't really any spots on this album where I felt like You God was going off. I think he gets really outshined by a lot of the features on this. Like Inspect the Deck is on some songs. Method Man is on some song. Raekwon. Yeah. Really, the only songs I listen to off of Golden Arms Redemption are Rumble. I like that one. That's got Inspected Deck on it, and Method Man and Dat Gangsta. Those are the only songs I listen to off of this. So, I feel like it's just decent. I think it's pretty fairly rated. I'm gonna do Jizza Beneath the Surface. I'm gonna put this one in the good tier. I think this one is also another one that gets kind of shitted on a lot, mainly because Liquid Swords was so good and had so many like banging catchy songs on it. Beneath the Surface, it's a really commercial sounding, radio friendly sounding album. Like the beats aren't as like dark and gruff and gritty as Liquid Swords. They're more like kind of steam cleaned, I guess. Like they're really kind of like they're like pressed. Like it feels like a lot of these beats have just been like pressed, like on an iron or some shit. Yeah, they're really clean. Jizza's rapping is still really good. Like there's some good features on this too. Like Beneath the Surface, the title track, I really like. I like Victim. I like that song. It's got a nice like sung hook on it that I think is really dope. The beats are really boomy and kind of bouncy. But it's still, I think it's still good. I don't really listen to that many songs up Beneath the Surface, but I definitely think it is kind of underrated. So let's do Method Man, Redman, Blackout. I'm gonna put this one in the great column. I really like it. Like I think it's really cool. Like I feel like I like this a little bit more than Tikal, but it's definitely not better than Tikal. But yeah, this is the first collaborative project between Method Man and Redman. They had collaborated on songs before this, but this is like their first collaborative album. And I really like this. Like you can really see the chemistry between like Redman and Method Man kind of like forming up on this album. The beats on this are really funky and bouncy, and they're both rapping pretty hard. I can't really say many songs that I listened to off of this because I had only heard it a couple times, but just based off of the times that I've heard it, I definitely think it should be up here with like Iron Man and Tikal. It's definitely better than all these ones down here. But yeah, like this one is definitely like I think kind of slept on because I don't see too many people talking about this. But yeah, if you like Method Man, you like Redman, definitely listen to that one. Let's do Immobility. I'm gonna put this one in the decent column as well. Yeah, Immobility. That's Raekwon's second album. I didn't really enjoy listening to this that much. Like I thought it was kind of alright. I had heard it like 2 or 3 times before listening to it for this video, and I think I kind of like didn't like it even like the first couple times I listened to it. It was a little underwhelming. Like going from Cuban links to this is pretty underwhelming. Like I think the beats on this are kind of okay. Like there's still like those references to like mafiosos and like organized crime and all that, but I don't really have any real connection to Immobility. You know, So let's just go on to I'm gonna do Return to 36 Chambers. All right, Return to 36 Chambers. This easily goes in the classic tier as well. Return to 36 Chambers. That's Old Dirty Bastard's solo debut album. He On this one's really like dope. Like it's really grimy. There's a lot of like booming like basses on this. That like the bass on this was like hitting really hard. This was like one of those first kind of like really out there left field kind of albums. Like this was really just like so far out there. Like his melodic flow on this is really really like dope. He's like pretty unhinged on a lot of these songs. Like even though like the lyricism on this isn't like as good as a lot of these projects over here. I think with ODB what you're mostly listening to him for is the energy and the flows and his just like insane like crazy zany like delivery. And he does that on a lot of these projects. There's a lot of spots on this that do feel really weird, and there are some spots on this that take like a weird shift in terms of like the tone. Shimmy Shimmy Yaw, that's like the big single off of this. It was a huge radio hit. It's like the poppy song off of this, I guess you could say. Yeah, but like it's weird because like that song, the second verse is just the first verse but like in reverse, which is like pretty weird, and I really liked it. Yeah, like, and you got Brooklyn Zoo, which is that's like a New York like anthem. You know what I mean? Yeah, I know. And then you got some spots like what's the Sweet Sugar Pie? I think that's what it's called. I like that one too because it's like a part where he's just like singing and he's listing off all these old like R&B singers, and it's pretty cool. I definitely like listen to this. It's really influential for like if you're into like Danny Brown or like JPEG Mafia or a lot of rappers that just have like a crazy weird kind of delivery to their rapping. This is definitely like influential to those kinds of rappers. All right, Method Man to Cal 2000. I'm gonna put this. I can't put it in between great and good, but I could. If I could, I would. So imagine that this is in between great and good. I really like this. I listened to more songs off of Tikal 2000 than Tikal, really, to be honest. I think the songs on this are really funky and like they're really like bouncy, and he's flowing pretty well on these like bouncy beats. And there's some really good features on this too. Like Inspected Deck is featured on it. He killed all his features on it. Yeah, and it's got like a weird like theme of like because this came out in 1998. This kind of fear of like the Y2K, kind of like it's gonna be like the Doomsday Judgment Day kind of theme to the album. But I think what really bogs this album down and kind of weighs it down is the skits. There's at least 8 skits on this that are really like kind of take you out of it, I feel. There's a this has like one of the worst aged skits I've heard. There's like a skit where it's Donald Trump, like it's like a voicemail audio clip, and it's like one of the like worst skits I've heard on a like hip hop album, and I still think it's really dope though. Other than that, so I would listen to this too. So let me do Old Dirty Bastard's second album. I can't say the name of it, so let's just call it N-Word, please. I think this one also goes in the great column. Another, Old Dirty Bastard's second album. This is another overlooked project because I think when it came out, people didn't really know what to think about it because it was very weird. His delivery on this is the most insane, out of his mind delivery that he's had on not even just his own project, but on a lot of just Wu-Tang projects in general. Like on this, he's screaming his ass off on a lot of these songs that he's on. The big single off this, "Got Your Money," that's the pretty big song. That was being played on the radio a lot. There's a Rick James cover of Cold Blooded. I actually really like that. This is like a really like poppy kind of sounding album. After WuTang Forever ushered in that second wave of Wu-Tang rapping and production. but it didn't work on a lot of these albums. I feel like the only one where it did work was Old Dirty Bastard's second album and like Supreme Clientele. I definitely would recommend this. Like if you're into like weird, like zany, crazy rapping, I definitely listen to this. I mean, even just looking at the cover, he's in like a weird, like jumpsuit, and he's got like a crazy wig, and it's just like a really left field, like out of this world album that doesn't get talked about enough. So I'd recommend listening to that. All right, last one up. Got RZA as Bobby Digital. I don't know if this is controversial, but I'm gonna put this in the good column. You know, definitely not between good and great like Tikal 2000, but I still think it's good. Really, what I kind of don't like about this album is there's a lot of songs on this where um, it's bogged down by like a lot of interludes, and it's like kind of bogged. There's a lot of songs on this that are either overly long or not like long enough. But the beats on this are pretty cool. It has like a cool like futuristic kind of like vibe to it. This kind of introduces RZA's Bobby Digital persona. I feel like his Bobby Digital persona is not. It's not one of my favorite rap personas, like like other rap personas that I like. Because I don't think his like persona as Bobby Digital is like that interesting. Because he is kind of having like some heartfelt moments on this. Like he is kind of rapping about like his family and his life and just like growing up. I feel like he kind of made this just because when he's RZA, he has like a certain image, and I guess he can really only people expect certain things from him as RZA. But once he's like Bobby Digital, he can rap about the kind of stuff that he wants to rap about, But I mean, there's definitely some dope songs on this. Like Holocaust, I think is a pretty good song. Mantis, I think kind of has like it's like a harder kind of sounds more like these kung fu-y Wu-Tang traditional albums. But yeah, and RZA's rapping on this isn't bad. I actually think RZA is like an underrated rapper because his voice is pretty dope, and he says some shit that can be pretty grotesque and kind of disgusting, and he kind of does this on the album too. Like he says some shit on here that makes me cringe. Like his opening verse on what's that song? Kiss of a Black Widow. His opening verse on that is like pretty cringe, I think. But yeah. But I don't think it's like horrible though. It's definitely good. So yeah, I guess that's gonna do it. Yeah, if you agree, disagree, let me know. Hit me up at Catharsis Records. Leave it in the comments. What are some Wu-Tang albums that you enjoy? I'm gonna put a link to this tier list down there. You can share them. We can talk about Wu-Tang's music and kind of like retrospectively kind of go into a lot of these albums. I'm not sure if I'm gonna do a Wu-Tang Clan 2000s edition because like I haven't heard all of it, and most of the Wu-Tang stuff from the 2000s I've heard is just Ghostface's stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I'll definitely keep y'all posted if I do that. So make sure you subscribe, like, share this shit, do all that stuff. So yeah, see you next time.